Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes. We're here on Monday morning to do our SEC Power Rankings. Blake, we had some unexpected results this weekend and a bit of a shakeup at the Power Rankings here, but not a big shakeup near the bottom. We've still got Vanderbilt at 14 and Missouri at 13. Neither team had a very good weekend. I guess Vanderbilt's relatively better than Missouri, but the Commodores have still lost, 21 in a row in conference play, and I think we need to see Vandy win a conference game before we can move them out of the basement.
Yeah, I don't think Vandy or Missouri are moving anywhere anytime soon from 13 and 14. I just think I think it'll take a lot for that to happen. Because like we said, it's not going to happen. Missouri plays Abilene Christian, Vandy plays Northern Illinois this week, so even wins over those teams, they're not really going to move up. But it's not a surprise. We said coming to the season, these were the two teams that just seemed like they had some things they need to fix, and hopefully quickly, for them. But yeah, there's just a lot of things that are still a work in progress for both teams, and I think it may be a while if it does happen during the season before they move out of these two spots. So
you could make a lot of argument for the next four, although I don't think that the order we have them in is going to be out of line of most people's expectations. South Carolina at 12, the Gamecocks honestly could have played better against Arkansas, although we think Arkansas is very good. That had a lot to do with it. But Carolina stays in the 12 spot, which I think is where it was a week ago.
Yeah, I put them a little bit higher on mine because again, the Arkansas game, I thought there was some things they did well in that game, but like we mentioned, I think it's just Arkansas was just played better, and we talked about all the stuff with Arkansas, and we'll get to them in a minute, but I don't think South Carolina is a bad team. I think that they are still a work in progress. That's we talked about the offense going in the season. That's the phrase that I use. They will get better, I think, throughout the season, and you could see some flashes of that in that Arkansas game. But obviously now you get Georgia, and we talked about kind of this. You hate that from a scheduling standpoint for South Carolina because, you go from one very physical team to another very physical team here in Georgia. You don't know how much your offense is going to be able to do there. But I think it's interesting, kind of where they're slotted. But as I said in the live streams we've done, we're 2 weeks into this thing, and if anyone has a full, complete hard line between some of these teams, I don't see it yet for some of these teams. Now, again, there are more clearer lines, I think, when you get towards the top of the league, but and even with the two teams at the bottom, but elsewhere, I think there's still a lot to be determined with some of these teams in this range. So,
well, the next three, the lines are blurred between these teams too. We've got Auburn at 11. Auburn had a shot to move up with a more impressive performance against San Jose State. The Tigers' passing game has been a wreck. Defense has been there, but I have questions about Auburn and whether it can score enough points. I know that the running game is strong, but teams are going to stack the box against them and just dare them to throw the ball. And the way that Auburn has played so far, I'm not sure Auburn can do that.
I was going to say I'm hearing these on the fly for the first time because usually I see our rankings before we do this, but I haven't looked at our composite for all of our staff. But I was curious where Auburn would land. I was curious kind of where they would be slotted after that San Jose State game, and admittedly, I moved them down a little bit on my list. And I just look. We said the running game. We talked about in the live stream. I said they need to run the ball on every play. You just want to see the passing game improve. It's going to have to improve, I think, for Auburn to be the team that you would want them to be if you're an Auburn fan for sure. And but we mentioned too, there are some things with the schedule, which this game against Penn State is going to be very interesting. We've already got our preview up on that, by the way. If you're watching this, you can check out our preview. Blaine's put that one up already, so that's there. But it's just offensively they've got to be better, and we'll see if that happens here moving forward. So,
speaking of teams with offensive and quarterbacking problems, we get to the Texas A&M Aggies at 10. They were 6 in the AP poll last week. They're 10 in our power rankings this week, and I don't think we're wrong.
I said we were wrong last week, and we saw how that turned out. So,
look, this team, played Appalachian State, which gave up 63 to North Carolina last week. A&M had 38 snaps. I think we talked about this Saturday. I've never heard of a team with 38 snaps in a college game. I'm sure it's happened. I just don't remember it. 186 yards. Could see a quarterback change there going forward, but I just can't. Hard to justify putting A&M much higher than 10 right now.
Yeah, I had them higher. You know me, I'm still just I'm just trying to hang on to the belief that they're going to be able to figure some of these things out. But once again, as you said, the offense has to be better. The passing game has to be better. It's just got to be. And I think we talked about the upcoming schedule. There's no sense in going into it all that much again. I mean, these next 4 games are all losable games for Texas A&M. And, I'm not saying they're going to lose every one of them, but it's going to be a grind to win any of these next 4 games, I think, just given their schedule. And so yeah, they've got to get things figured out, and they don't have the luxury of some of these other teams with the schedules that are kind of, a little bit up and down. Like they don't, they're now going into the gauntlet, and they're going in looking around and saying, man, we've got to fix this very quickly. And yeah, so we'll see. I mean, look, we talked about the youth and those kind of things, but you're going to get plenty of experience in this next month or so of games, because it is going to be a grind, I think, given the nature of the teams they're going to play. So Miami, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Alabama. Is that right? Is that the next 4 for A&M?
I believe
that's
correct.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. So we'll see. But obviously, if you're winning some of those games, guess what? You're moving back up the rankings here, our composite power rankings. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds, I think, for the Aggies. So,
yeah, just to confirm, that is Miami, Arkansas, and Arlington at Mississippi State, Alabama in order before a bye week, and then a road trip to South Carolina, which will not be easy either.
Yeah.
Number 9, we've got LSU. Not really sure what to make of the Tigers, who looked awful when they had a chance to win in the Superdome against Florida State. Had a get-right game against Southern that really didn't tell us a lot. Maybe it's the schedule, and LSU looked the least bad of some of these teams because of who it played. But whatever the reason is, we settled in with the Tigers at 9 this week.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if LSU would still move ahead of A&M. I was curious, in our composite rankings. I wasn't sure about that, but yeah, it seems like enough people felt that was the case to move them up here. So I don't know what to make of LSU yet. Like you said, I think it's just too early with them. They were one of the teams that we came into the season not knowing what to make of. I think there are still several of those teams, and they're still in that mix. I just want to see how things continue, to progress from here. And got to pull up their schedules. I'm so terrible with this. I know they play Mississippi State this week, and then they've got New Mexico, and then things get got Auburn, Tennessee, those kind of games. So once again, this is where we start to learn a lot more about LSU, especially this week going up against the Mississippi State team that we will get to here in a minute, that have continued to rise up our rankings. So we learn a lot about, I think, the quarterback play, and just kind of the state of that offense this week specifically. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see how that plays out for that team. So,
number 8, the Florida Gators. Quarterback Anthony Richardson went from Heisman contender potentially to just a miserable performance in the win against Kentucky. My dog is taking
Oreo's not happy about that.
I guess. No, he's not happy. Oreo was not happy about the way Anthony Richardson threw the ball. Neither were Florida fans, I don't think. But in any case, we've got the Gators at 8 this week. And again, they're kind of at the top of that tier of teams we really don't know what to do with. And you might be able to say that about the next one in the ranking too. But Florida coming in at number 8.
I would have had Florida ahead of the team that I assume is going to be next in the ranking. I think that's how I had it in my individual rankings. But I just, and like you said, it's based off of that, the thought of what you've seen, in that game specifically against Kentucky from Anthony Richardson. But I can also point to what we saw in the game before and some of the things there that they did really well. So it's like, I don't know that I'm going to go too far in the opposite direction just yet with Florida, because I think that those are, it wasn't a good game. There's no other way to put it. But like I mentioned when we did our reaction videos, I think you have to give Kentucky some credit for that. And I don't know. They are still another team, though, with Florida. You beat a top 10 team in week one. You certainly have some struggles in week two, but you do it against what is now a top 10 team in Kentucky, right? I mean, so I don't know that I'm going to go too far in the opposite direction on Florida, and that's why, like I said, individually I had them higher than what I assume will be the next team in our ranking. So
our channel is sponsored by the fine folks at Stakes. You can predict sports, build your track record, earn digital trophies, get your predictions on the record. You can predict anything in the game for free, and everything at Stakes is free. Sign-up's free. The coins you get are free. The prizes you can win, free. So this is just for fun. It's for bragging rights. You can see how you measure up against fans and influencers like us. We have an account, Southeastern 14, where we post polls and picks every week. So come on in and pick against us or pick with us or whatever your take may be. You can flex your wins by broadcasting your takes to our community of sports fans with just a few taps on your phone, and then you earn credibility. You build your public predictions track record by winning competitions and earning NFT trophies for making the perfect call. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Sign up, use the invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Well, it's been hard to create challenging questions for the next team, and that's Ole Miss, because the schedule has not exactly been challenging so far. And in addition to that, the next few weeks won't be either. But Ole Miss reloaded with talent. The defenses look pretty good. All you can do is play what's in front of you, and defense has kind of been the question with Ole Miss the last couple of years. We figure Lane Kiffin will figure it out on offense, which he has during his tenure, but the defense got better the second half of last year, and with the reload in the transfer portal, again, I don't want to put too much stock into it, but it's played well so far. The Rebels played two quarterbacks in the blowout win on Saturday, and here they are at 11. Or excuse me, at 7.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to make of Ole Miss yet. That was what I was alluding to. That's why I think I still put Florida ahead of them, but I think it's just because I still don't know what to make of Ole Miss. And I just, and again, like we said, I don't know when exactly we figure that out, right? Because I think we understand, like we talked about, kind of the running game and what they can do with Zach Evans, and we know they've got some playmakers on the offense. It's just, you different quarterback from week one to week two, and what's the difference there? Certainly, you can see some of those things, even if the opponent's different in Troy and Central Arkansas. But I mean, look, I think this weekend's game is interesting. I don't think they lose, but you're going on the road, and I think it at least is maybe we learn a bit more about Ole Miss. I don't know that we learn everything that we think we're going to know about them before that week one or that first SEC game against Kentucky, but maybe you can gain a little bit more of a sense of kind of what this Ole Miss team is going to be after that Georgia Tech game on Saturday, because it's a game they should win. And I think it's just seeing how the game plays out from does Ole Miss come out and dominate this game, or does some of those things show up maybe that haven't shown up yet, against a Troy or Central Arkansas. So.
I keep looking to my right. That's where I've got my schedule posted. Ole Miss'
I figured that out.
Three toughest games, in my opinion, are all mid-November on. So that's a very interesting schedule.
And that's what we said. They have a very good chance to be 7-0 heading into LSU, but that was before we talked about, Kentucky has made its ascent. So right now, I think Kentucky's the favorite in that game against Ole Miss on October 1. But, the rest of the games, Ole Miss is probably the favorite where things stand right now. So,
yes, maybe 3 of the 4 toughest. I forgot about Kentucky there in the middle. So, in any case, next up, Ole Miss's biggest rival, Mississippi State, at 6. I have had State higher personally in my polls. I could even argue State as high as 3. Took care of business out at Arizona. I've said it time and time again. I like experience. I think State's got it. We talked about teams this weekend that may or may not have quarterback issues. Some do, some we don't know. But I think one team that you can put a very firm check mark in the we have a quarterback box is the Bulldogs. I just think this is a team that's got a little bit of everything. Our composite ranking has them at 6, but again, I could argue higher.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm there with you, not having them that high, but I think that's like we said, they're the team that I think has been the most underrated heading into the season, and we kept trying to talk our way through those 4 teams in the West, with Mississippi State, Ole Miss, LSU, and Auburn, and the more we talked about it, I kept saying, you know what, I think Mississippi State's moving above the pack here for me, and thus far, I think that's certainly the way it's been. So, so yeah, I really like what I've seen thus far from Mississippi State, and obviously now we really learn more about them this weekend against LSU, and we kind of see how things play out there, but. Yeah, I mean, I think they certainly have a good chance to win that game this weekend. Just given what we've seen from them thus far, a tough offense to prepare for, a very good defense at times. Whenever they are doing what they do on that side of the ball, and I think that there are still some things they probably want to fix on the defensive side, but there's a lot to like about this team right now. So.
Okay, I think you can flip a coin between the next 2 teams. 5 Kentucky, 4 Tennessee. We have leaned Tennessee, and that's how we settled this week. I think that Hendon Hooker, you could argue, the best player in the league behind Bryce Young. The defense has looked better so far. I know that Pitt didn't have Slovis for the last half of that game, and that might have made a difference. So maybe that made Tennessee look a little better. But the Vols have been able to generate quarterback pressures. They've played okay in the secondary. And just with Hooker, I just think that upside of him, and no disrespect to Will Levis. Will Levis is a fine quarterback, but Hooker's year last year statistically was just so loud. And the Vols, of course, beat them head-to-head last year, which, until they play again, that's what we have. But, if you wanted to argue Kentucky at 4, Tennessee at 5, I wouldn't tell you definitively that you're wrong, but we settled Kentucky 5, Tennessee 4 this week.
I think you can put them in any order you want. I think there are many who would put Kentucky at 3. So, I mean, look, that's the way it is in the AP Bowl this week, right? Kentucky's 3rd behind. I mean, not number 3 in the AP Bowl, but in terms of the SEC teams, they're 3rd right ahead of Arkansas. So, but yeah, I mean, you can't discount what Kentucky's done. They go on the road and beat Florida, and it just I mean, we said it like these are 2 teams, and you start to look at this, and it is fascinating now, right? We had the East-West discussion in a live stream we did on Sunday night. And, now you kind of look at this, you got 3 of your top 5 teams are from the East. And I don't, that finally the East is kind of, making it stand here in terms of where, some of these teams are kind of getting to now. But yeah, Kentucky's look good. Tennessee's look good. I'm not taking anything away from Tennessee, even with the, quarterback situation there at Pitt and that latter part of the game. I think it's still just a great win for Tennessee to go on the road and win that game. So, this didn't really change anything for me. Like I said, my top 5 was pretty much set with what our top 5 is going to be. It was just a matter of the order, and I'm not going to argue anyone that's wants to flip these teams in any order really in this next group here. So
the Arkansas Razorbacks check in at number 3, which I believe that's where we've had Arkansas since the preseason. Arkansas really not doing anything to dissuade us there. Razorbacks had a really nice win over South Carolina following an opening day victory over Cincinnati. We like what we see on both sides of the ball. Arkansas really ran it well against Carolina. Again, you could debate the next 3 or 4 teams behind them should be ahead, but we've kind of planted our flag there, and we've stuck with it, and nothing from Saturday or the last 2 Saturdays really to prove us wrong on that.
One of our staff members had Arkansas 2 this week, so
that's
right
right.
Of Alabama. So take that for what you will on that. But I think again, it's seeing what we've. I mean, when you really look at it, right? When you look at what Arkansas has done in the first 2 weeks, it's been impressive to beat I think still going to be a quality Cincinnati team. South Carolina, I said, is going to get better, I think, as the season progresses. And so, there's been a lot to like with Arkansas thus far, and there was very little doubt for me to move them from the spot I've had them in from the start, and that was number 3. And so, not surprised to see them stay right there.
We had a switch at the top. No shock, though, I think, given what the pollsters have done. Alabama, number 2, the Crimson Tide were 20.5-point favorites at Texas. Won on a field goal with, 10 seconds left to eke out a 1-point win. In Austin, Alabama had 15 penalties, didn't really pile up the yards. I do have some questions about Alabama. The offensive line, I don't think, is as dominant as past ones. The running game, the depth there, I'm not sure is as dominant. The receiving core, not maybe quite what Alabama's had the last 4 or 5 years, which that's a very high standard even at Alabama. So I see some places where, it may not measure up to past Alabama teams. On the other hand, that defense has got Will Anderson and has been pretty good. Look, Alabama goes on the road, plays a good Texas team, and even with a performance that is well below Alabama standards, gets a win, even if it is by a point, that counts for something. But I think enough questions raised to where we flipped at the top, and Georgia now number 1.
Yeah, national championships aren't handed out in week 2 via the Southeastern 14 power rankings. So, Alabama fans, you're still going to be, I think, okay in terms of just us making this swap this week. But again, you kind of have to base it on what we have seen to this point. And, I think a lot of this still weighs on what Georgia did, I think, in week 1 against Oregon, right? And just the complete decimation of Oregon. If that's a field goal game or something, then I don't think we're making this swap, even with Alabama's close call at Texas. I think it's just you have to weigh what you've seen. And I know there's not a lot to take away from Georgia beating Samford, but from what we've seen of Georgia thus far, I kind of figured this would happen in terms of making the flip. And of course, like you said, that the pollsters have done the same. But still, I think that was such an uncharacteristic type game for Alabama that I'm with you. I do think there are some things that are clearly, they're still going to have to get better at, and obviously Nick Saban knows that better than anyone. But I just think it's that was just, it was wild just to see the game play out how it did with all the penalties, especially, and you can bet that is something that will be cleaned up very quickly. And so these are, again, I think these are still the top 2 teams, but we'll see how things continue to progress for Alabama. But I'm not that overly surprised to see the flip, and I'm maybe not that overly surprised in terms of that team. I don't know. Like we'll see how things play out, but I just think the penalties and all that, I feel like that was just one of those games on the road. Great environment, great atmosphere, and we'll see if that's all it was, or if there's maybe something more to this for Alabama. So
I think Nick Saban, like if he could order one of those where his team wins the game. But he's got like a lot of things to get its attention. I mean, you had the penalties, you had the players doing the horns down after the game.
He's got their attention now. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, look, I couldn't believe some of those kids did that. Like, you gotta know your coach well enough that you're going, hey, we just squeaked out a win. We had a bunch of penalties. Maybe we don't do that.
Heat of the moment. I think that you're so excited that you even won in the first place because you probably should have lost the game. So
I mean, that played right into his hands.
Yeah.
That's like everything you want. That's your win. That's your teaching moment. So Louisiana Monroe, you're next, and may God have mercy on your soul. Georgia, I don't know what to say. The Bulldogs just kind of took their foot off the gas. Oreo's not taking his foot off the gas, though. And, I mean, look, a 33-0 win over Samford doesn't tell you much. This, again, on the strength of the complete demolition of Oregon.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on Georgia. I think we pretty much said it all. Obviously, we'll see how they play this weekend against South Carolina, and we'll see what that looks like. But, I mean, they're number 1 now in our poll for a reason, and they've just been they've been dominant thus far through 2 weeks. So,
all right, that's it for our Southeastern 14 Power Rankings presented by Stakes. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and we're going to have content every day here at the channel this week, and on many occasions, multiple items. So hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. For Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. God bless you, and thank you for watching.